Hi, my name is Sue, and I'm here to share my abortion story. I just really want to provide the perspective of someone who's been there, and to those that are hurting from a past abortion, I hope my story will be one that provides you a sense of hope and healing. So here goes. I was 18 when I had my abortion. I was a freshman in college, and my boyfriend and I had been dating 2 years. And after going off to college, we began going down a slippery slope, which ultimately had us come face to face with an unplanned pregnancy. I remember being in a state of shock and somewhat disbelief that this had happened, and we were just new in college, had no money to support a baby. My parents had just gone through a traumatic separation, and I knew that returning to home was not an option for me. I didn't share it with any friends because I felt really a sense of shame at the time, and I feared rejection. My abortion was back in 1980, so the stigma against premarital sex at that time was a lot higher than it is now. But my boyfriend and I went to the pregnancy center, and that was by the college campus, and confirmed that yes, I was pregnant. And we racked our brains with what were we going to do with this situation. It came to us that the only foreseeable option at that time that we could envision was that I would have an abortion. My abortion occurred on December 17th of 1980, and that is a day that's indelibly etched in my brain. I remember being very fearful and anxious about the procedure. The procedure itself was painful both physically and emotionally. Even though I was told at the time it was just a glob of pregnancy tissue, there was something, just a deep sadness in my heart about, I knew I had lost something that would never be returned to me. My boyfriend and I drove home in silence. In fact, we never discussed it again. Sadly, our previously really healthy, happy relationship began to disintegrate before our eyes. I was personally filled with tremendous amount of anger. We began to have fights all the time, and before you know it, our relationship crumbled under the weight of our decision. Now, the breakup of this relationship, my parents' traumatic separation, and then the weight of my own abortion, I must admit, initially after the abortion, I felt relief. I felt like it was over. No one would know. We could continue school. Just it was like nothing ever happened. But I got to be honest that within weeks, there was just a sense of guilt, a sense of anxiety, a sense of depression. It was just like a deep emptiness within. So with my breakup with my boyfriend, all these emotions surrounding the abortion and my parents, it was so painful for me to handle that, figuratively speaking, I took all these painful emotions and stuffed them into a box. I tightly shut the lid on that, walked it down into the dark cellar of my heart and shoved it in the corner, turned my back, walked up the stairs, slammed the door, turned the key in the latch and threw away the key. It was just something that I was not able to deal with. So I effectively tucked it away and became numb to that. Sadly, the weight of this secret and this box, I turned to alcohol. And for really, it was probably a period of 7 years that I began to submerge myself in the party scene, using alcohol to kind of numb my pain. But thank God in 1987, Jesus Christ saved my life. God had used a gentleman that I'd met actually while on a family vacation, who shared the love of God with me, and over a period of 3 years shared that, Jesus loved me, And I got to be honest with you, I was like, I do not want to hear about this Jesus person. I don't have anything to do with God. But there again, I was involved in another broken relationship, and it was when I was at rock bottom that I called up my friend and I said, Tom, I think I'm ready to give this Jesus a try. I don't even know if he's real, but if he is, I'd like to ask him into my heart. And so my friend and I remember kneeling on my living room floor with my friend on the phone, and he led me in a short prayer to receive Jesus as my Lord. And I didn't know if I could, well, just to move on, the reality of that decision changed my life completely. Happened that a coworker was looking for a church and she invited me, so we got kind of situated in a church family, and I was beginning to grow and understand the love that God had for me. And within 1 year, God began to lead me by the hand to that locked cellar door, because he knew there was a part of my life that needed his healing touch, that was really had walled off my ability to really feel loved and accepted, and also to really love others. I'd really built up this wall. So one of the ways he began to break through this denial about my abortion, because in essence I had tucked it away, I conveniently forgot I had one. But I was driving home from a Wednesday night Bible study, and on the side of the road, it was in the late fall, so it was dark early, and it was about 8 o'clock and it was dark already. But I saw this stumbling figure on the side of the berm, and I felt this nudge to go back and find out who this was and what was going on. And then my mind's like, wait a minute, I'm a 26-year-old single girl. What am I going to do to be exploring this? But I could not escape this pull to go see what was going on with this person walking along the side of the road. I pulled into a parking lot, and this person happened to be approaching right then, and it was a woman who was probably in her early 50s, and she was just stone drunk. And she agreed for a ride home, and she invited me in when we got there. And we put on a pot of coffee, and she began just bawling. And she shared with me that she had lost a 29-year-old son. And it's like God allowed me to witness firsthand the grief of a mother over a child that she had lost. And I tried to comfort her, and I offered to, I invited her to church and gave her my phone number. I said, hey, I'm here for you at any time. And then I had to leave because I had graduated from nursing school on that point, and I was working. And I said, hey, I've got to go now, and she said, she turned to me and looked me straight in the face, and she said, do you think my son's death is punishment for an abortion I had? And when she said the word abortion, it's like the lid to that box in my heart was blown off, as the reality of my abortion and the loss of my child became so painfully real. It's like I was allowed to look into that box, and all I saw was my own broken and shattered heart. Nothing I could ever do would bring back my child. And I was filled with thoughts of what kind of mother would I be? It was just like a flood of emotions just came out. And I confessed, this was the first person I shared this secret with. I confessed to her I had had an abortion too. And that woman and I wept bitterly together. After this box had been busted open, I went and talked to my pastor and shared my history with him. And he was so full of the love of God. He said, Sue, there's no sin that Jesus can't forgive. And he just shared the comfort of God and gave me a referral to a local pro-life pregnancy center that offered Bible study support groups for women that have had abortion that really wanted to come to terms with that and work through their grief. And I enrolled in the Bible study, and the women in that group became Jesus in the flesh to me as they began to speak his words of love and truth They cried tears with me, and they offered his words of truth and hope. And it was through that group that God began to mend my heart, piece by piece. And one of the topics of the group was called Accepting the Loss and Letting Go. And the prayer leaders suggested that we name our children. This was to kind of establish the personhood of our child, to help us to grieve, being that we have no gravestone, no grave site to go to. And in my nursing school, I learned some things about, and we learned in the group as well, that, and I'll share these with you. This is in nursing school. This is documented fact. At 22 days, the heart of a baby begins to beat. It has its own blood supply. Often its blood type might even be different than the mother's. At week 6, the brain waves are recordable. And at week 8, every organ is in place. The fingerprints begin to form, and the baby can even begin to hear. So we address the reality that that was a baby, and I ended up getting my records from my abortion because as I was helped me to come to terms with it, they estimated that my child's gestation was 6 weeks. So that was like that would be about the time when I first missed my period, and we did discover this very early in my pregnancy. But even then, my baby's brain waves were detectable. So one of the groups was the topic of accepting the loss and letting go. And I thought it was very strange to the concept of naming my child. For one thing, I didn't know the gender, and I didn't want to make up something. I thought that would be ludicrous. But I actually went to God in prayer, and I said, Lord, I don't know the gender of my child, but I know your Bible says that before we were formed in the womb, you knew us, and you know all things. So if that's something you want to reveal to me, and a name that you'd like to give me, I'm open to that, but I am not going to fabricate it or try to and just make up something in my mind. So I kind of let it go then, and the leaders were fine with that. They said sometimes people just have a sense of their baby's gender. But it was within about 2 weeks, I was praying on my bed at night, not even thinking about the abortion, when in my mind's eye I saw the image of this beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde, curly-haired boy who came running to me, and he clung to me. His head was about here, and he looked up with these shining eyes, and he said, "I love you, Mommy." And when he said that, my heart just burst out in tears, and I said, "I love you too. Do you forgive me?" And he said, "Of course I do, Mommy. I'll see you in heaven." And I feel like this was just a snapshot given to me of God to help me grieve. I don't feel I was having contact with my child, but in my mind's eye, I held him, and I just rocked back. And I tell you, the dam broke as just years and years of pent-up grief just poured out. Finally, when the last tear was cried, the name Stephen just dropped in my heart. Kind of took my breath away, and I said, "Stephen." And I said, "Lord, this is too surreal, but if this is his name and you've revealed to me his gender, then I need you to confirm it so I will know beyond a shadow of a doubt." And I could not deny the peace I was experiencing, but this whole thing was a little bit shocking to me. But I had such a peace, and within a couple weeks again, God confirmed his name. The first confirmation came while I was standing in the post office behind a woman holding a beautiful blue-eyed baby boy. And I felt this nudge of God to ask the son's name. And she said, "Stephen," not Steve, not Stevie, but Stephen, the name given to me in prayer. The second confirmation came at the close of a church conference on the topic of the Lord's mercy, which is very appropriate. I was one of the last to leave, and there was a woman nursing her baby. And as I was walking past her, I again felt this undeniable pull to ask her son's name. And I was arguing in my mind, this is so stupid. She's nursing a child. But I could not escape it. So I said, "I'm so sorry, but could you please tell me your son's name?" And she looked up, of course. His name's Stephen. I ran out of that church. She must have been thinking, what is wrong with this lady? But my heart was pounding. Oh my goodness, Stephen. And if that wasn't enough, I was sitting within that week at a park just on these beautiful stone steps at a gazebo overlooking this beautiful rolling hill with the sunshine setting, and I was pondering everything that God had been doing in my life and this group and in this healing process. And I saw a father with a curly-haired boy strolling down the hill, and they were holding hands, and I remember thinking to myself, how beautiful that is. And as they turned and came back up the hill and were walking past me, I felt that nudge again. Ask the man his son's name, and I asked, and he said, Stephen. I was so amazed that God had been orchestrating every moment of my healing and had revealed my son's name. And I basically about that week ran to my pastor and shared with him everything that had been going on. He too marveled at the grace of God. And he said, Sue, I'd really like to offer to have a memorial for Stephen, if you'd like to do that. Just me and another older woman in the church will have it with you, and we'll really honor his life. And that so touched me that he would be willing to do that. And at the end, when I said yes, he said, and Sue, I don't know if you know this, but my son's name is Stephen. And I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this. The odds that I would be drawn to a church with this pastor who offers, and his son's name is Stephen. We had the memorial, and it was so touching, so significant for me. And then one of the last weeks of that Bible study group I was going through, we also held a memorial for our children. And our group had decided to plant a tree. And this would commemorate that despite our children's tragic deaths, God could still create new life and new beginnings in us. And the woman had approached, our leader had approached a pastor at a close by church, and he agreed, yes, we could plant this tree in the back of their children's ministry center. So at the last meeting, we all brought little items to be placed in a shoebox that would be buried beneath the tree. And some brought little booties, some brought pictures of would-be siblings. I brought a plaque of Stephen's name, which in Hebrew means crowned one. And I also had written a song, so I tucked the lyrics of that song in the box. And we dug this hole, we put the box deep down within, and then we planted this beautiful rose of Sharon tree on top. And it was after we planted that tree and were standing in a circle around our newly planted tree, we were holding hands and singing songs like Jesus Loves the Little Children. But I realized at that moment that the box that had been hidden in the cellar of my heart for 8 years was now standing open in the light of day, and it was empty. My heart had been mended and given wings to fly. I came to know the truth that if the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. Well, the story didn't end there. Within 2 years, God brought another Stephen into my life. This was to be my husband. He's blessed me with 2 beautiful, healthy boys, Sam and Nathan. One's actually in college now, and Nathan is a senior. God has totally healed and transformed my life, and I want to share that same hope for healing with you. If you would like to learn more about the effects of abortion, you're not alone. And many, many women have struggled, many men even, have struggled with coming to terms with a past abortion. I have a Facebook page called Heart to Heart Abortion Recovery. And on that Facebook page, this is a picture of how it looks. It has a little heart with a Band-Aid. But on that Facebook page, I have my story. I have some links to some abortion recovery resources that will help you if you too are struggling and really want to come to a place of peace. I also have an email address that I would welcome any of you to contact me at prayingwithfaith@yahoo.com. and I'm happy to interact with you. I will not judge you. I have been there. I love you. And if you have questions, concerns, just want someone to talk to who's been there, of course, these resources from the link from my page will also provide all kinds of resources and opportunities for you. But know that I personally am available to you too. I really do love you. And I really trust that you will find the same healing and hope that I have. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope these resources will help you. And again, I appreciate you listening to my story. Thanks again. Bye.